Welcome back. Welcome back. As I said, it would not be Outsiders without Senator M.Canavan and geologist Professor Ian Plimer. And we're going to flog Ian's book, a new book, Skeptical Always. I'm glad to hear it. We should always all be sceptical about everything, always, and particularly about your new book. I'm going to be sceptical about it. M.Canavan and Ian Plimer. Matt, we were talking earlier about this idiotic thing last week, the ridiculous report that nobody bought, the scaremongering, oh, we're all going to die, doomsday. I mean, it was a joke. No one took it seriously. Followed by ridiculous targets, so we could never meet, we will never meet, and there's no point in meeting anyway. You made the brilliant point in Senate estimates that if what they say is true, more people are going to live, not die. It was brilliant stuff.
Well, yes, it's been an interesting political tactic from the government this week. I think they've basically told us, look, you don't have to worry about not getting your $275 cut in electricity bills because you're all going to die anyway. You're all going to be dead. So it doesn't matter. Their broken promises, nothing. And then it got worse. So they released this doomsday report on the Monday. They just happened to have a Senate inquiry scheduled on the Tuesday into climate risk. Oh, what a coincidence, what a coincidence. And so I rock up at the Senate inquiry and ask the logical question that, well, if this is a report into global warming, won't that mean fewer people die from cold? And the answer I got was, no, sorry, Senator, that was out of scope. I'm like, but it's a report into global warming. Now, so how could it be out of scope? But there's a more serious point here, that when you go to the technical report, you can never believe the headlines on these climate reports. You can never believe what they call the summary report. When you go to the technical report and find the paper they quoted to scare us all about an increase in heat deaths, a 444% increase in heat deaths, when you go to that paper, yes, they estimate the increase in heat deaths, but that paper also estimated the decrease in cold deaths, and they just ignored that. They just didn't report it. And in that paper, the scientific peer-reviewed paper, it showed a 732 increase in heat deaths because of their estimates of global warming and a 1,629 reduction in cold deaths.
And
Ian Plimer.
If you use their modelling, assuming that carbon dioxide drives this catastrophe we're all about to face, if you look at their modelling and then calculate what a 70% reduction of emissions is going to do, it's going to lower global temperature by 0.0007 degrees Celsius. You can't even bloody well measure it. The science is just nonsense, and then you look at the scientific advisors there. These are eminently unknown people who are employed in institutions using your taxes to take your money to send you broke. We are being conned by the biggest scientific fraud this country has ever seen.
OK. Let me jump in here. Let me jump in here because, Matt and Ian, I want to ask you both from a different perspective the same question here. We know that all of these reports are nonsense. We know that there's nothing Australia can do to change the temperature. All of the things we know are true, and yet somehow, even despite all this, despite the power bills, despite everything else, despite everybody seeing their high street businesses going out of business because they can't afford to pay the power bill, people aren't making the connection. And somehow still out there's a lot of people who still believe this stuff. So we've got this group of people here and watching and all missionaries for the cause. How does the message get out that actually you're not a bad person if you don't want to do net zero? There's a lot of morality that's bound up in this sort of thing, fake morality nonetheless. How do you politically sell this shift?
Well, I think it's our job, James. I think that's my job. I think we have to show political leadership. I don't think the views of the Australian people will change. Until someone has the guts and courage to point out that the emperor, the net zero emperor, has no clothes.
Yeah.
That's.
Now, is that shift happening? We can talk about leadership, but I sense that shift is happening in the Australian people, all the momentum is against net zero increasingly. Is that happening?
Well, look, I think we're on the cusp of the Liberal and National parties walking away from net zero. I mean, it's all bar the last rites being administered right now. We've got to go through this process, but and maybe it'll take 12 months. But we took 2 hours to come up and oppose the emission targets this week, so that's good. We did that. So I don't see why we shouldn't in the next 2 weeks drop net zero. Just dump it. As I said yesterday, it just needs to be scrapped.
It's the critical way to get Australia back on track.
Yeah, can you show leadership? Look at the voice.
100%.
The Australian people didn't change their mind on the voice until Peter Dutton came out and showed leadership. As soon as he took a position, the polls on the voice went off a cliff. The same thing is going to happen here because the people pushing net zero cannot withstand basic scrutiny. They cannot answer simple questions about how you're going to grow our food, how you're going to transport our goods around their country, how you're going to make sure that we can still power and keep the lights on. They can't answer those simple questions. So as long as we put some pressure on them, the whole thing's going to crumble.
Now, Ian.
There's a really simple calculation you can do with net zero if you're a passionate believer, maybe a Green senator. Now, we are breathing in 0.04% carbon dioxide, and because we eat and drink, we metabolise and breathe out about 4% carbon dioxide. So if you're really passionate as a Green about net zero, then drop dead.
Just joking, of course. Thank you.
I wasn't.
You were. Be sceptical always. Ian, tell us about your book. Let's put you on to safer ground.
Look, I'll sign it for you, Rowan. James has got a copy already, but I've got a fountain pen if you know what these are. But this is a book of 50 essays. Some of them have rewritten and changed from The Spectator. But they're looking at the last 50 years of my life working in third world countries, looking at young children who don't get fed, who've got mercury poisoning, who are really not as well off as our kids. And just trying to point out how well off we are in this country and how stupid we are with such resources. So it's a development of ideas basically showing that this country once had values and we're destroying these values. And the only way we can have a decent Conservative government is where we have principles and values, tie ourselves into the way Western civilisation runs. And I look at some of the great problems we've got. How do you solve Canberra?
We don't have that long. Sorry, we don't have that long.
Very simple. You send Aboriginal affairs to Halls Creek. You send Treasury to Gladstone and finance to Port Hedland. Get them out of that sheep.
Get them out of Canberra. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely brilliant. Rockhampton. I think we should set up in Rocky. Just quickly, Twiggy Forrest has come out and said that Donald Trump's climate policies are gobsmackingly illogical. This is the bloke who was going to spend billions on ridiculous green hydrogen, then wasn't, then was, then wasn't. But Donald Trump's classic fossil fuel economy is gobsmackingly illogical. Explain this to me, M.Canavan.
Oh, well, look, I don't know if I can explain what Twiggy's been thinking in the last few years, but, I mean, you're right about all his plans have fallen over, so I don't know why we would be listening to someone who has failed so often now and wasted billions of taxpayer dollars. He says he's going to pay some back, but we've just finished a pipeline from Rockhampton to Gladstone, cost you $1 billion. That was put in place to send water from the Fitzroy River, fresh water, down to Gladstone, where we would have burnt it, and then sent it to Japan and Korea, sent our fresh water to Japan and Korea. Fortunately, Twiggy's project's fallen over, so it's not going ahead. Interesting tidbit, though, what I'm told is the pump station at the Rockhampton River, the Fitzroy River, just there at Rockhampton, they forgot to design a substation. So the electric pumps are being powered by, wait for it, for green hydrogen, wait for it, by diesel generators. Good old fossil fuel.
M.Canavan.
So if Trump's illogical, Twiggy's illogical too.
Give him a big hand. We're going to take a short break. After we come back, I might have a word or two to say about the Liberal Party. And then we've got Prime Minister Liz Truss, former Prime Minister Liz Truss, joining us, and Match Lab, lots more happening here on Outsiders. Back in a tick.